Greetings, my friends. This is Wolfgang with Tools for Ascension. And today I'm talking about me. Who is Wolfgang? I was hesitant to do this video because I do not want people to follow me because of what I am, like an authority, but because, if it resonates with you, as truth, this is I want you to do, trust in yourself. I have seen too many blind followers, who put gurus or other authorities on pedestals, giving their power away to them. Save me, knight in the shining armor. And then they have to put them down later, when they wake up to the truth, to their own truth, they're seeing, the flaws in the gurus and the distortions in their teachings. So, you save yourself. I give you some tools, and you do the work. I help you here and there. It's like teaching somebody how to fish. And then they can fish for themselves and feed themselves. I don't want to be the one fishing for you, or I'm not responsible for your life. I'm not your daddy. Also, I was hesitant about sharing about myself because I'm actually a very private person. And but previously, I was also hesitant about sharing some of my mystical experiences, and have found that it resonates with a lot of people and confirmed some of their own experience. So it was very helpful, and I haven't had any negative feedback as such, which is kind of amazed me. So I'm asking now that anything that comes from this video is going to be for the highest good, in divine harmony, with the most benevolent outcomes. Amen. So now the self, is a very important question for self-discovery. And personally, I'm actually an enigma to myself, like most of you are to your own self. Much of what I know about myself, besides the obvious, is through the reflection of other people. But this is how the game seems to go. We are not an island to ourselves. We are all connected, and ultimately we have to help each other. Just like, let's say, in Buddhism, the Mahayana path, where you advance by helping others to evolve instead of just focusing only on your own evolution, is considered the fastest path. And, well, again, let's not give a power away, but empirically I found this true for myself. Let's just talk about some misconception. There is this idea that once you reach Satori or enlightenment, and then it's all done. That's just as true as any promise of any advertisements. So, just where they promise you, hey, if you get this souped-up car, or your new boobs, or, whatever, your problems will be solved. And so the same is for the Hindu idea of mukti, of liberation. Let me tell you, expansion of consciousness keeps on going throughout the dimension, till you join our Godhead, through your high self. or you become a plaything of Godhead, of the Supreme Creator. And on esoteric levels of spirituality, there is a big fight about the issue, becoming one with God or being eternally a servant of the Supreme Creator. And but hey, who are we to fight about these issues? This is kind of like, at least at the level that we are as, how many angels can reside on the tip of a needle? That's this old, useless armchair philosophy discussion. So let's get back into my personal life. Basically, I was born in Germany, post-war Germany, into trauma and psychic attack. It's the only way I can say so. My parents came out of the war. They grew up, their teenage years in the war. They've seen horrible things. They were highly disturbed. And so my great-grandfather, was cursed by a secret society. I'm not going to call any names here. And my grandfather was rejected by his mother and did not get any love. And, oh God, he married an evil woman that was actually demonically possessed. And so, my mother did not have a good time growing up. Then my father kicked my mother into the stomach, while she was pregnant with me. Probably survivor guilt from the war, And anybody that knows about rebirth and the theory of rebirthing, or any, I think, decent psychologist, should know that, your birth is probably one of the biggest traumas you're ever going to have in your life. So I was 10.5 pound, European pounds. And, well, my mother was unconscious during birth. I got stuck. I was blue when I got out. And so that was quite some trauma, I guess. And then, of course, as a result of that, that's the theory of Leonard Orr and other psychologists. At puberty, you become very depressed due to this kind of large pain body, you could say. And then, of course, my mother could not nurse me, and her mother could not nurse her either. And I think there's a lot of deep bonding and pheromones going on when there's nursing. No, I didn't have that. And my mother was also electroshocked by the good psychiatrist, who didn't even bother to explore and find out that she had postpartum depression. And also my mom had several suicide attempts before I was 6. So there was a lot of trauma I was born into, and anybody probably understands that a little baby, whether it's in the womb or around the mother, cannot distinguish between its own emotions and the emotions of others. So yeah, I grew up in a pretty nasty emotional soup. Then at the age of 3 and 4, I was actually psychically attacked in my dreams through nightmares in high resolution, lucid dream quality. I don't want to get into any details, but this was not made up by my own fantasy, what I saw. These were, this was some high intelligence, not a good one, doing this. And let's just go ahead. And so as a teenager, I read the existentialist like Camus and Sartre, and saw, life as a pointless principle of biology. You survive. And I was, of course, manic depressive or bipolar. and I felt trapped in my small, idyllic German town, which is kind of like in its beauty as Heidelberg. Plus, I have to say, I was, or I still am, a very sensitive person, and there is still a lot of trauma just floating around those old cities from old times, from wars, from people that have never been cleared before. That is a fact. In India or other places, there are regularly ceremonies being performed to purify the ethers, and that has not happened in Europe. So there's a lot of pain in the area, and I probably felt that too. So anyhow, I did not like the bourgeois scene that I saw around me. None of the adults around me inspire me. And I was an atheist, and I thought, I don't want to live like that, for maybe another 80 years. Nobody asked me to be here. I don't like it, and I don't have no responsibility to anybody else besides maybe the suffering I would cause my parents. So I decided to give myself 2 years, to look for happiness. And if I couldn't find it, if I couldn't find out those principles, I'd maybe kill myself. It was pretty radical and sincere. So also, being an atheist, I challenged God. I told him, if if there's a God around, you better show yourself. You got 2 years. And yeah, I was serious. Well, actually, the goddess came and saved me through an experience of divine love. I talk about this in a video, The Divine Kiss. And so I decided to keep searching for happiness and truth and do not kill myself. In order, to explore myself and the world around me, I studied face reading, and it helped me a lot. I also studied philosophy and fine art. Well, I thought, among all the people I met in my life so far, the artists were the coolest. They were laid back, they were thinking outside of the box, and they were just not bourgeois, not boring, living at the edge, being free thinkers. And I was good at art too, so that, and I also decided to study philosophy. Philosophy is massaging the secrets of life, exploring, how we think. And, I studied the critique of science, as a field. And, of course, aesthetics, Schopenhauer, the world as imagination and will. Beautiful, beautiful book. And, yeah, I read Nietzsche, but... a strong man armchair philosophy, in my opinion. He hated women, but he was maintained by his 4 sisters. What a noble man he was. Right? Disgusting, Anyhow, so I ultimately, I lost my interest in philosophy, because my philosophy professors, they just switched theories or aspects, how to look at life as it pleased them, and they did not have any superior quality of life, or maybe wisdom or more love than anybody else. So, plus, who was this? Well, there was one author that put out this beautiful book. Well, I don't recall the name right now, but basically he just published a small book, and he said, and he was a famous philosopher, he said that if you really look at it from a big perspective, philosophy is mental speculation. You're on the mental plane. You're discussing philosophies, but if you want to know its truth, you have to become empirical. You have to see how it relates to the physical 3D reality, and basically it's coming down to bean counting, just statistics. And so that was it for me with philosophy. But then I had some really foul experiences with meditation, things where I experienced like mind over matter, basically. And I also heard about yogis that were telling jokes in front of the temple in India, and when you are funny, people listen, and you always had a big crowd around them, and so he could tell it to them straight, just disguised as humor, and I thought this is pretty cool too. And he was a full-blown mystic, that's what I heard. So, as a comedian, you have this liberty, to rub your finger into the sore spot of society, where they're stuck up, and I just love this. And well, I also had some encounters with the violent part of life. Something with really low-end bikers, Hells Angels, but they didn't have any bikes, these were like teenagers. Anyhow, I kind of felt powerless, and so I kind of how women feel, when they get attacked, and so I decided to learn martial arts, and it was quite a foul thing, I once beat up five guys simultaneously in the army, and this was with jiu-jitsu alone, a Jason-born experience. And probably, I think, my high self, some other parallel aspects of mine stepped in. This is my opinion. And then, but, if you live like a warrior, every person that comes towards you, you see, are they carrying any weapons, how are their hands, and, how would they attack me, how would I take them out, and I didn't like that kind of mindset, so I ultimately gave martial arts up. But it gave me a freedom, to move around freely in society, and, allowed me to travel alone around the world. And it probably saved my life a few times too. While doing martial arts, let's say I practiced knocking out candles, by, stopping my fist about a quarter of an inch in front of the flame, this kind of things. And, hit a couple of people, just tapped their throat and just said, nah, we don't want to fight, do you? So, let's see, what else we're going to talk. Well, yeah, the violent side of life. I had my run-in with the military. Well, I had one girlfriend, you could say. Her father was a general, in charge of many people. And so I was invited home, and I told him what I thought is right. I told him that, in my opinion, the military is the dog for the military-industrial complex, And then behind my back, he called me a coward. Does the coward speak up to the father of his girlfriend? I mean, I don't know what this man was thinking. Then I had an uncle, who was a major. He was not a Nazi, he had an iron cross, and he kept his men, alive in 2 World Wars. I mean, he was definitely a brave person. And, I had long hair. And then in a letter, not to my face, but in a letter, he criticized me of being dirty and uncivilized, just because I had long hair. And I just wrote him back that, well, that I take about a shower and wash my hair every second day, in my dojo, and besides swimming practices. And then I also said that with a character thing, Albrecht Dürer, who was maybe is considered the greatest German Renaissance artist, and Jesus Christ had long hair, and that long hair is not really a sign of a bad character. And then this glorious man takes me out of his will. He gets defeated in an argument. What a chivalrous person, and takes me out of the will. It's like, yeah. Plus, my other, I was forced to join the military, and we did this exercise where you had to storm a forest. You're in the field, and you have your lines. 5 people jump, 5 people lay down. And of course, once they reached the forest, the soldier there said, well, I killed you over there, and so I asked the officer in front of everybody, so what do you think? How many people, us storming the forest would have survived? And he said 50%. So I went around our group, okay, so you live, you're dead, you live, you're dead, you live, you're dead, And then just this whole idea of sacrificing people to conquer a forest, the suffering, of limbs are being lost for the rest of their life, the horror, the parents that just nourished these children. This really, I, how to say this, I don't think there's any glory, or, war is a horrible thing. So, in this way, I'm a pacifist, but I will definitely defend myself. Anyhow, and the philosopher, I think, was called Lichtenstein, that reduced philosophy to bean counting in the end. So at the end of my studies, I started meditating and also chanting. I chanted Om Namah Shivaya, and I did it for hours. I had a beautiful recording, cranked up my stereo all the way up and just chanted for hours, and my life just changed dramatically. I had beautiful experiences with friends. I became very attractive to the opposite sex. And just little miracles, would happen. So let's say, one day I was talking to my friend. I said, I thought, I like to have some birds in my room. They give life, and, they're beautiful. I think this would raise my consciousness. And then he goes, well, you should get a parrot. They're very intelligent. So we went to a pet store, and parrots were $500 a piece, and I declined. Well, the next day, I was cramming in the botanical gardens, and the next day I took the long road home, through a park. And there in the tree was a parrot. I went ahead, caught it, took it home, gave my friend a call, and he came back with a cage, with a parrot cage. So many things like this happened in my life, where my desires were fulfilled. I got initiated by the Siddha Yoga Muktananda Swami, through Shaktipad, I mean, to basically an energy transfer. And, he was famous for having done this in Haight-Ashbury, and, just touching people's heads and cheering them up, and then they would go into meditation. Well, I've done things too like this, I have to say. On German Mineral Show, I use my wand to zip people up, to charge them up, open their nadis, crown chakra, etc. And they go on to meditation too, my own style, but somehow I follow in that line of those gurus. I mean, I had several gurus, and I'm not mentioning them all by name. Well, also as a student, I and this was quite a important experience for me. I ate brown rice, just brown rice boiled in water, no salt, nothing, for 1 week. I was told, then you can see your dreams in color. So, well, I had cold feet and cold hands, but it was very, very liberating, because I could see, like, you could get like a kilo of brown rice for $3.50, and you could live probably a week or 2 weeks off that. So I realized I can live off nothing, if I have to. It's not a problem. I can survive. So a lot of fear about life and how to maintain myself in the future was taken away. And when I looked at shopping windows, it's just like, I realized I don't need all this stuff, so a lot of detachment came from that. And, consequently, I investigated vegetarianism, explored macrobiotics, and other styles of eating. Then after I finished my studies, I went to Sri Lanka with a former Buddhist monk. I had a really good time there, and I have to say, for the 4 months that I spent there, I had a lot of mystical experiences, more probably than, compared in the time frame that I did in my 6 years that I spent in India. I saw halos, on people. I mean, full-blown halos. I'm not talking aura. I'm talking blazing white light halos. I also probably wore a halo. I saw people looking up at me, and jaw dropped. I was introduced to the macrocosmic orbit. Basically a mystic entered my body and showed me this. I connected with the water turtle, on a DNA level. I lived with a shaman, and I saw the shaman's helper, being possessed by Kali, dancing in the fire, touching coals with his hand. I have a video on that where I talk about this. I had a lot of crown chakra experiences, where I didn't know at that time what a crown chakra was, but where I'm sitting in a bus, and suddenly, I have this kind of feeling above the head. In some Christian paintings, you see the apostles with a little flame above their head. Well, that flame they're showing is quite piddly. But it just felt like this flame over the head, and I knew this was not for me. And when I looked around in the bus, suddenly I always saw one of those old country folks, in simple clothes. You're kind of looking at me, thinking, kind of, you caught me, So, I picked up on that, or, I was smoking, let's say, a cigarette in a park, and a gentleman walks up to me and says, sir, a person like you should not smoke cigarettes. A person like me, this blew my mind. So another big thing that happened to me in Sri Lanka was in Colombo, the capital. I found out that you could hire the State Gallery for, I think it was $100 a day, something like this, for Westerner, cheap, dirt cheap. And so I went to the German embassy and said I want to do an exhibition. They just laughed at me and said, well, we have display panels. We're not going to organize an exhibition for you. And I had brought my fine art exams pictures. What's this big format? I had maybe 50 of those. Well, I got a poster designed. I painted those panels. I got interviewed by the Columbus State newspaper. I was on the front page with my interview. I had 2 pictures on the front. I had a radio interview. And I had a big darn art exhibition in Columbus. And and I was observing myself. All the art students came, and I was wearing this silk kurta, and I had 2 Olympus cameras, both with motor drive around my neck. So I was Mr. Big Shot, and those guys, they were just kind of worshipping me. Oh, so you're wonderful, and we love your stuff. And when I looked around, I saw those people maybe spending like, the really good ones were spending 5 minutes on those panels, trying to absorb, the message I was trying to give. And and I realized, they may be getting 5% of the ideas that I put in there. And, I somehow rejected fame at that time. I realized, this adoration of fame is for the wrong reasons. They don't really know me. They don't really understand my art. There's not enough time. And it was nice, but it was not something that I wanted to pursue as the goal of my life, like my art professor did. No. And also in Sri Lanka, I fulfilled some other dreams. Of course, the third world is very cheap, compared to Western standards. So I rented a whole old British villa, with an atrium, balcony at the beach. And we had 2 servant boys, go for us, 2, who would get water, cook, and do errands. And I was living a dream, I was skin diving at the beach, and I could go 20 yards down, without a bottle. I had a harpoon, but I decided not to kill any fish anymore. And there were beautiful coral reefs, and the fishermen took me out in their catamarans, and it was beautiful. And I realized, though I was living what most people are dreaming of, I got used to it. After 2-3 months, I did not appreciate the beauty of the palms and the beach anymore. It's just, and I realized, you get used to everything. I was lucky enough to have beautiful girlfriends in my life, and I also noticed you get used to it. After some time, you realize, oh, this nose is not completely straight. So whatever level you are in life, you get used to it. Even when I was living with a shaman in the jungle, deep in the jungle, and I was eating every day white rice and the banana flower, the flower of a banana tree, chopped up with salt and chili. And that was it, every day, for 2 weeks. I enjoyed every second meal, just like I pretty much enjoy every second meal, that is very nicely prepared nowadays, or ever, any time. So we get used to any standard of living that we're at. So maybe this is a little private, but I also, well, sexuality is a big thing for most people. So, I mean, for everybody, it's, I think, one of the biggest urges there is, and so I should talk about it. Once I had an experience, and this is funny. At a party, there was this beautiful girl, and so, I was sitting next to her, and I thought our hands touched, and I fondled her hands, caressed her hands for about 15 minutes. And then, after 15 minutes, I realized that I was fondling the hand of my friend, who also thought that he was fondling her hand. And of course, at the time where we were not knowing what was going on, we had a great time. And of course, once we realized, we just laughed and laughed and thought it was very funny. But it shows, the illusion of the mind, or the context of the mind. It's not necessarily rubbing of skin tenderly. It is more like thinking, oh, this is a beautiful person. The social standing is very high, and she is or he is very difficult to get. Those things make a lot from the psychological titillation of sexuality. And so, I had an experience in Sri Lanka, and this was kind of one really important one. So I was kissing this girl in the dark, and then I realized this probably feels exactly the same, as if I'm kissing my grandmother. It's just the physically the same sensation. So the difference is just in the fantasy. And so these kind of realizations, they actually enabled me to later on in my life to be 12 years celibate. So, I went through this realizations and this voluntarily performance of celibacy. And many people in the ashrams where I lived thought I was gay because I would not hit on women. Little did they know. And when I went after living 6 years. I'm getting ahead of myself here. This experience of celibacy enabled me to manifest the divine male energy. Because you have to have, you cannot be just a slave of your gonads. Then the divine male energy cannot manifest. And so, I was also able, to massage women, without becoming lusty, or hold space, for a loving space, for very attractive women, without becoming attracted as such, I worked with a lot of strippers, and it was, they were coming to me because every other male, they could not work with, I mean, of course, they would try their seduction thingies on me, that's, I think, natural. But, they could see, I was genuine, genuine, kind of pure. And, actually, we found that most strippers, they were, in their past lives, they were priestesses for Aphrodite or, other goddesses, doing sexual healings. So, at this time, I had it all, I had experienced fame, women, wealth, at least in third world terms, I even brought my stereo equipment to Sri Lanka, I had a great time, and then, I had to go back to Germany, and I had to make a choice, do I want to go back to a bourgeois lifestyle, become a high school teacher, teaching philosophy and fine art, getting very well paid, working half a day. In Germany you only work half a day as a teacher, get paid about double what they get paid in America. Lots of holidays, or do I become a traveler? And a traveler is somebody that, let's say, works in Alaska, or some other very well-paying job for maybe months, quarter of a year, half a year, and then the rest of the year, you live in the third world where it's nice, Thailand, Goa, Sri Lanka, South America. You live like a king there, and it's a very nice lifestyle. And I met a lot of people that are doing that, and I was surely considering this. And the other option I had, was to become an enlightened. And I've experienced by then so much bliss and wonderful stuff that I have to say, all the other lifestyles, they were nice, of any materialist, for materialists they were really nice. But I decided to become enlightened. So I said goodbye to a good career in the Western world, and I went to India, starting at the bottom of the island. And I decided, to ask anybody that I knew, that I met, do you know a good ashram where you can stay and, where they're really advanced? And of course, there was no thing as such, I traveled from Rameshwara to Madras, where I met the false guru, and where they haven't opened at the train station, and you can watch the video when heaven opens. And so I even I traveled all the way up to Rishikesh and Hardwar, where in the commercial ashrams, where people come for 2 weeks, maybe over the weekend, to meditate, have an intensive. I asked those guys, and they said, no, you should go stay with the yogis in the caves up there. They're serious. They're serious, and you should go to them. And and I went there, and I found them. And, they were having the Guru Puja and the Hatha Yoga, and I already knew all that stuff. And after 2-3 days, I realized these guys, they don't have real bliss. I had way more bliss than those guys. They're not that enlightened either, Sorry, about the judgment. You might think I'm a judgmental butthole, but I was very serious there. So I pray to God, and when I realized that, I pray to God. I was really serious. This was from the bottom of my heart. I said, I traveled all through India. I was looking, everywhere, and I don't know. You help me. I really don't know, what to do now. I had maybe $200 when I went to India, and I was running out of money, and I just said, I don't know. And so the next day, there were 2 devotees there in the cave ashram, and I talked to them, and they said, yeah, you should go to Bombay. That's a good place for Westerners to be. In Bollywood, there's a wonderful ashram, and I did that, and I have to say, this was probably the only ashram in India that was right for me. And I traveled afterwards all over India, and in all kind of temples and ashrams, on all kinds of missions, and that was definitely, God pointed me in the right direction, I have to say. So, and I had wonderful experiences on the way to Bombay. I spent 24 hours sitting in front of a couple with a mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law was eating constantly. It was just... And then on the next... And I also met a saint, who was going to Vrindavan. And he was retired and a mystic. And, he said, he spoke basically no English. And, but he said, you can do it, And I'm like, what? And then he opened his crown chakra. And so, I could feel it, So we would hang out, just vibing, having nice vibes. And opposite of us was a Hindu pimp with his 2 horses. He was smoking hash. So we had, the sinful world there, the saint. It was just so funny, so, the duality was just right there. Very, very funny. So I studied Bhakti Yoga in very famous ashram in Bollywood, and I would do mantra meditation for 2 to 4 hours a day. And I met the famous people there, like, the Birlas, the Hindujas, the richest people of India, and more. I don't name them all. Also, mixed with the Bollywood scene. I went to Hema Malini's house and took some photographs, for paintings from her and her child. And some of the celebrities, they would greet me when I saw them in a restaurant. And I used my skill as a photographer and in printing. I have to say, one of my ancestors, I think 19th or 18th century, printed 10,000 Bibles. And that was quite a feat in those times. So that karma of printing has always been with me. And my mother, I have to say. We all survived as printers, or connected somehow with the printing industry. So I took photos of deities, and millions and millions and millions of posters were sold all over India. I designed calendars that beat the Air India calendar in an art exhibition. Air India was the most prestigious calendar in India. I introduced scanners and the latest technology and densitometers. Made sure the quality was just right. We actually fired some printers and got our own printing presses, and it's like very successful. Very successful. And this was, of course, my karma yoga, where I worked for free. And I would fast at certain holidays, from water, from sleep, chanting mantras, Vedic mantras all night long. Great experiences. I would sleep on the marble floor with a $2 straw mat under me, a pillow and a thin blanket for 6 years. You don't sleep, you don't oversleep when you grow on the hard floor, but it showed me that I can live anywhere. I'm fine. I can eat brown rice, sleep on the floor. I'm fine. It's very liberating. I experimented with mantras. The same mantra, I could do it very fast and precise and loud, or in the mind only, and finally, it came to me, when any mantra is generally connected to a deity, to a divine multidimensional being, And when you have to imagine that this person is in front of you, and what do you do when a divine being is in front of you? You smile. I mean, at least from respect, if not from love. And once I started smiling while I was doing my mantras, oh my God, there was so much bliss. I had so much bliss. I mean, that was like, that's why I was chanting 4 hours a day many days. Because it was so joyful, not discipline, And so, I gave up this whole attitude of awe and reverence and just, straight love. And I toured India, doing photography and other missions. And I encountered many teachers, probably from past lives. I encountered gurus from past lives, that actually recognized me, and hugged me and pinched my cheek. And I had to go to, let's say, for instance, I went to Jaipur. Jaipur is this beautiful, beautiful cities with all those palaces, and the famous altar, temple from Srila Rupa Goswami is there. It's called the Radha Govinda temple. And I had to get some statements from those priests there, and they it was a strange experience, but this is how they do this in India, I found out. I mean, I was a white guy, and so, this was those administrators, that were in charge of the temple. They were just living in a building that had just sand on the floor. And they were sitting on the floor, there was just a table, and very austere. And there were actually a family of rats living in there. They would just run across the room, and that was all cool. They would not kill those rats or chase them out. That was part of the family, I guess. So that impressed me with those guys. And so they said, just sit there and wait. So I would sit there, for half a day, just chanting on my beats, my mala beats, and being in bliss. And then they said, maybe tomorrow I give you your document. And they said, just go there and sit there, And I would, meditate, chant on my beats, and I think this happened for about 2.5 days. And then, he gave me the papers that I needed. And he actually invited me to come onto the altar, of those famous Radha Govinda deities. There were some upset people in the in the crowd there, seeing a white guy, on that altar, and I got an apple thrown at my head, but it's just, one of those experiences. I got invited by the Lion Club, all members, they're like doctors, professors, highly educated people, and I would preach to them, and it was amazing, when I would talk to them. It was as if that wisdom was flowing through me, and I was like watching and saying, wow, I've never seen myself like that. And they were like all in bliss and smiling, and so probably, I was getting empowered, preaching from the heart, and started channeling, It was very nice. And also, when probably you Hindus will know, there's this famous Nachi deity and Natavara, and I was invited to this temple too, and I was standing like all the way in the back. They have like a theater-like, steps, so that everybody can see the altar. And I was, when I came in there, I felt I was coming home. Just the feeling of coming home after a long time. And I just started sobbing. I just cried. I mean, just, I rarely sobbed that much, that strongly in my life up till then. Yeah, that was probably the strongest sobbing I've done till then. And the priests, they throw like kumkum powder, into the crowd. And Nachi Didi is like a child form of Krishna. So he's very playful, trickster, he's a little rascal, And so I'm like in the middle of crying, and then, boom, I get hit by like, a big chunk of kumkum powder, And, the priest normally couldn't throw that far. But, so I knew like Nachi. He was like tipping me on the head. Once in Dwarka, I was in the temple up there, and was standing in front of the altar, and I looked to the side, and there was this beautiful yogi. I mean, very noble face, very radiant, beautiful chiseled body. I mean, really a noble person. And there was also a female there, and she was kind of swaying around, and she looked like a great yogini, good energy, time kind of ageless. You hard to tell her age. And I, at that time, looking at them, I knew exactly what they were doing. They were running energy, tantric energy, white tantra. They were doing white tantra. I knew exactly what they were doing. So that means I was a tantric myself in past lives. It's just I mean, India is definitely fouled. It's the most fouled country I've seen so far in my life. And I've been to Nepal, and I've seen Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkey, and Norway, and I've been around. So when I was in Pandharpur, there was a big mela there. It means a spiritual gathering, and I walked along this road, and the road was lined with lepers. Leprosy, lepers. People, whose nose falling off, whose fingers and toes fell off. Those kind of guys. Hundreds. It was several miles. There were maybe 1,000 lepers, maybe more. I think there were several thousand lepers, maybe up to 2,000 lepers I saw at the same time. To see something like that is just like mind-blowing. So after basically to live in India, to learn the culture there, was a great eye-opener. Just because it is so different, from Western culture. And I got a completely new perspective, on Western culture. In the Western culture, the sick, elderly, and crippled, put away in homes, locked away. And in India, if you're crippled, you're put on display by your handlers to make money, and I see people dying in the road, and people defecating on the road. It's just, and life is cheap, very cheap, and there's people everywhere. It's completely gives you a completely different outlook on life. You become very detached. So then, but ultimately, for a variety of reasons, I joined my spiritual teacher in America, in West Virginia, and where he had a spiritual community, living off the land, protecting cows, of course being strict vegetarian. And so my guru decided to break away from the Hindu tradition, the Hindu trappings, and to westernize his teachings, to have a greater audience for the teachings. And he actually formed an interfaith community. And many people, when they hear interfaith, they think Christians, the Methodist, getting along with the Baptist. No. This was like Native Americans, Sufi, Kundalini yoga people, New Age people that channel, Native American sweat lodge, we did fire walking. I mean, we had them all come, there for festivals, and also they joined and lived there. And oh God, I made friends with them all. And so I learned from all of them. I did rebirthing. So demons surface during the rebirthing session. I did hands-on healings, worked with crystals. I did Sufi color breathing techniques. I learned and taught Kundalini yoga. I did past life regression. I had a friend. She was a retired professor, and we got together into past life regression, guided meditation, and channeling. I was the person that was asking the question. She was channeling all kinds of entities, and I had scriptural knowledge, and some of those beings from those scriptures actually appeared. Very, very interesting. And so I was definitely, comparing all those techniques, and I was very impressed by Kundalini yoga. But I combined those teachings, with the projection of love. With Kundalini yoga, you create a lot of energy, but those guys don't smile. But when you do this and you smile, and then you should run this around in a circle. Oh God, this was awesome. And so I liked that. I think this was one of the most potent forms. I liked breath work in general. That's also being extremely potent. And also past life regressions. And just to give you an example about the power of past life regressions, at one of those interfaith festivals, there were 3 ladies. They were friends, and I had to book them all at the same time because there was no time. There was too much demand on my skills, and so I was just getting them into their trance state. And then just, talking to the first one, getting her going on something, then the second one, and then the third one, just like a chess master goes from chessboard to chessboard. And then after half an hour, one of the ladies said, "Oh my God, I have been, sexually abused by my father." And, and then the thing came. And I have been in psychotherapy for 1.5 years with $75 a session, and I did not find out. And here I'm half an hour into your session, and I'm finding this out. So this kind of showed me the potency, of just, getting in touch with the high self, telling the high self, please let us know the most important issues, and just, taking it from there, having the subconscious, say, oh yeah, here, this is what we have to work with, this is what we need, and here's the biggie, it's so much faster than just talking through, and it's so much deeper, anyhow. So, that was really important, and, and of course, channeling, so, we wanted to know, we're probably not humans here, in the Vedas, they of course they talk, they have the aliens, different types of aliens, there's so many names given and characteristics, that we're visiting and interacting, in a hostile or friendly manners. And so, we asked, hey, what kind of where do I come from which star system, and that was funny. They just laughed, and they said, "Oh, you are a star hopper." I'm like, star hopper? What is this? Well, you are incarnated on all kinds of star systems. You go from star system to star system. So then I also wanted to know, where I was incarnated on this planet, as in a human form. Let's say, I am Egyptian or only Hindu or what. And then they also said, oh no, you have been incarnated, whenever it was happening, in any culture where it was happening, you were there. You were a mover and shaker in all the major cultures. So, and I found this to be true, through other mystics, but also through my clients. Like, Dolores Cannon, when she had her clients, deep under, she would get a lot of messages and insights when she was asking questions. So, this was kind of my process too. So, so whenever, somebody's in a past life, let's say, I had a client wanted to know about their Native American background, so they were showing they were in Sedona, wearing, at the vortexes doing ceremony. And, so whenever people see themselves in important parts in their past lives, I ask them the questions. Is there anybody that you recognize, in this time, in your past life, that, in this lifetime? Yeah, you are there. That's one of the shamans doing the ceremony, and I've been in many past lives, in all these different cultures, whether it's Maya, or I was a prophet, or first a good prophet, then a false prophet in Egypt, where I lost my connection with divine guidance, but still telling the pharaoh to go to war, and then his whole army got wiped out, he got killed, and the city was ransacked. So I don't tell people anymore, since their lifetime, I don't tell people anymore, how to live their life. I get them in touch with their own guidance, but I do not like to be the psychic for people. All right, don't ask me. So, I was a gladiator, and then I was a gladiator trainer, and in that lifetime I also became a healer in Rome. I was a bishop in Britain. I was a judge during the Inquisition. The bishop in Britain, I was interested. I was, a normal priest initially, and I would just talk to people's high self. My high self would talk to their high self, and then I would, do accordingly. But that was pretty interesting. So I was quite advanced there, So I was the judge doing the Inquisition, checking out the dark side, and there was a walk on the dark side, and many light workers have been walking on the dark side. I was like a son of Attila the Hun, and I met one of my brothers. I mean, he had lots of princes, he was doing lots of raping. And so we played games like who can kill the most people in one day. And the record was, I think, like 250, 350, something like that. So that's the damn games we played. I was a Tibetan master, and I was told. So, who went after a sect that was probably kind of off. I was a spiritual master in Benares, Varanasi, and one of my disciples, reached Mukti, liberation, and came back, to help me in some of my work, and one of my clients in short yoga. I sent thousands of ghosts that died, before the French Revolution. There was this 5-year mini ice age, hard winters, and because of the mismanagement of royalty, thousands and thousands and thousands of people died, and my family died too, and I was ticked off, and I sent several thousand ghosts, to the royal family. You're angry, go there, they did it, and I met some of those people in this lifetime. I released those ghosts. So I also was a heavy-duty priest in Atlantis. I tried to prevent the downfall from Atlantis, the corruption. I definitely was attacked there too. And I knew my wife in Atlantis in several incarnations. She would make custom wands for me. You know, my wife that I'm married to right now, Ishani. And also was deeply involved in the Shiva and Vaishnava teachings in India. I was associated with the Pleiadian gods, and I was very rich during the US Civil War. I was in the north. I was a gay slave in Sparta. Then there was a slave culture there, and I was a slave. And I seduced my master to get some kind of control. And I also once was a rich Spartan merchant that weighed 350 pounds. I was a loculus type of person, just eating delicacies, and I love cooking in this lifetime. And of course, anybody that knows about the Spartans, they used to live off blood and sleep on the floor, completely martial arts, austere culture. And their money was like crude iron, so you couldn't accumulate or transport your wealth. And I was a rich merchant and a glutton. You can imagine the shame that must have been there. So, past life regressions are there to learn, not to flatter your ego. And I was an African shaman. I saw myself doing initiation rites. And I was also an African chief. Every male in my tribe, had to do 2 hours of training, weight training, martial arts training. Everybody was like super buff, fierce warriors. Nobody messed with that. We had peace. Basically, we paid taxes in investing into our fitness, and that paid off big time. And what else? Well, there were also some past lives where I was compared to certain archetypes in Star Wars, but probably what I said so now is controversial enough. So anyhow, peeking into the other side was quite interesting and not always flattering. And talking to a lot of high selves and finding out, what screwed up where, and how karma goes, and how important forgiveness is, and finding out the intricacies, the divine plan behind things. Oh God, I mean, learning scriptures is one thing, but having direct contact with the other side, and karma, and releasing it, and then feeling all those energies leave. It's not just Larifari. No, you feel when you released karma, when some scars are being released, you can feel that. So this is not BS. Well, on the physical, I've never been really just following the party line, always trying to think outside the box. So I experimented a lot, so I built big copper tube pyramids, reinforced, with crystals, double terminators, and other crystals, that I got from Arkansas. I meditated on them, slept in them. I made paper pyramids and, foot wide paper pyramids, rows of 3s and 7s. I slept over 21 paper pyramids. That's quite juicy. And I ultimately commissioned, when I got into crystals, commissioned a wand, from my future wife Ishani, who was a jeweler. And then she started coming to my Kundalini yoga classes, and eventually I gave up my 12 years of celibacy. And then my spiritual teacher got assassinated by a demoniac entity that had possessed what I assume was probably a Manchurian candidate. Maybe not, but he possessed that entity, possessed that person that was envious and angry, at the least. That is actually very obvious to me. And my teacher survived getting his brain mashed in. His soul left, and he had a walk-in. I mean, this is controversial, but my assessment is he had a walk-in, which was really interesting and uplifting, having this new soul in there and having all this really high vibration in there, but unconditional love of a child. But then, more and more, he had to live off the memory tapes of my guru and just go by route and tradition. And I think, I don't know, the crown chakra maybe got screwed up, and so I was not channeling, divine guidance anymore. I was just following scriptures and going by route. So ultimately I rejected. It was very hard for me. I rejected my guru, took my power back and became a heretic. That's what I am now. And went into the world again. I lived in a major city in the southwest. I worked as a cameraman for a very high-end production company, Betacam cameras, $45,000 a piece. They had 3, worked with jibs, interviewed a lot of CEOs and, did a lot of big gigs. People have to pay $1,000 for me to show up. I mean, I didn't get that money. But I handled the responsibility, let's say. I also worked as a year for Channel 4 News, prize-winning, very demanding job. Got to meet a lot of politicians. They asked for me for years afterwards. What happened to Wolfgang? Where's Wolfgang? They remember me. I must have made quite an impression. So I did a lot of corporate gigs, and I also did a healing circle a few times. There were like a meditation group of 30 people, 30, 40 people. And I arranged them in a circle, and we took love from heaven and earth and sent it to the left side, and awesome energy. And then we put somebody in the middle, and they were getting so much love, and we projected that love onto these people in the middle, and within probably a minute or two, they were just cracking up, crying, from so much love. They received so much love, that was so unused to them, and they just cried and cried. I mean, it was really liberating crying, it was awesome. And then, I started doing my own healing classes. Had a lot of Reiki masters coming to me to learn my different techniques, past life regressions. And this time I did about 1,000 soul searches, with people. That's what I call them. I'm not always going to past lives, it's, meeting your higher self, meeting your inner child, and, meeting your totem animals, talking to them, see what's up, doing healings. Mother Mary, I worked with her a lot, and so many people, could smell the roses, when she was there. A lot of Mexicans, they, I had whole families, and, they saw Mother Mary, I mean, she appeared to them, I didn't see her, I can just feel her and smell her, but they saw her, so, I was very fortunate, having all those experiences. So I also managed the only New Age store in a city of 1 million people, and of course, played around with all those toys and advised customers, souped up singing bowls, read all the books, managed all the psychics. One psychic, and her husband was anesthesiologist, basically was a doctor. But she had asthma, and many times she would come and just gasping for breath, and and clients waiting for her. She's a very good psychic. Clients just waiting for her, and she said, "No, I can't do it. I'm going home." And I just come on here. And in front of all those people, I blew a conch on her. Used my wand, cleared her, charged up her lung access points, and she was fine. It took me about 2.5 minutes, and she was fine. People like, whoa, looking, it's like blowing their minds. Yeah. Also, there was a lot of military there. Handlers with psychics being there, and one captain considered himself a healer. I don't know what kind of program he came from, and he wanted to figure me out. Came to my circle, to check me out. He passed out every time. About 3-4 times he tried it. And he was a willpower guy. He tried everything to stay awake, but every time after about 10-20 minutes, he was like completely passed out. I mean, we thought it was very, very funny. Anyhow. So I also, worked with special forces. Guy had his Kundalini go off when he was 17, and had problems all his life. I fixed it in one personal session. I just changed it, and he was very, very grateful, very grateful. And then he had the choice about several missions, and we explored possible futures, and probably saved his life. So they are good people in the military. But frankly, I don't want to work with MyLab people. People that have been programmed, super soldiers. It's too dangerous for me. I'm not set up for this, so please don't contact me, with this. I'm sorry. I don't know what kind of subpersonalities I'm awakening, and then, having to deal with demons and stuff like this. So, also don't come to me, with black magic and jinn trouble. I don't want to deal with this. I'm here to teach love and light, and to connect people to their inner guidance, but I'm not to fight these kind of battles for people. Sorry. Well, so my wife, she, makes magic wands, the real stuff, and, I show her how to use them. You've probably seen maybe some of my videos. If not, check them out. I mean, it's not the wand that does the work. It's the energy that you run through it. So I can run the energy through my hand or through a pencil if I have to. But of course a wand is much better. And she also makes crowns, and crowns with all their jewels. They soup up your crown chakra, and your third eye. So I was on for years and years. I went to many gem and mineral shows, selling those, demonstrating them, doing the Muktananda thing, zipping people up. And I also went to many New Age shows, like Hands of Light. There are many New Age shows. New York, San Francisco, Columbus, Ohio, And of course, I checked out everything that was there. All the teachings, all the gadgets. So, maybe I find something better. And, I found a lot of good stuff there. So, as I said, I'm open-minded, and I just like to use tools, see how effective they are. I'm not attached to any dogma. It's not my style. So then I left this city in the southwest, because ultimately they're going to be running out of water. And then I went to a beautiful city, a little city. That's where I'm now, next to the highest mountain on the East Coast. There's supposed to be a huge crystal here under the mountains, and it's the big central node for the whole East Coast. And it's too small, to support me as a light worker, at least in my opinion. And so I worked in the printing industry. And I worked blue-collar jobs on the floor. Printing can be very frustrating. And I learned how to keep my crown chakra open and my heart chakra open under those very, very challenging circumstances. To keep you open your crown chakra and your heart chakra, and being grounded in an ashram, in a meditation room, or in nature, that's easy. But doing it like when there's thumping machines around you, when you're surrounded by electromagnetic fields out the gazoo, heavy transformer, frustrated people, that is a different thing. So that was good training for me. And then I, of course, discovered Skype, and I realized that through Skype, you can send energy. I mean, I had a lady in London, and I'm just showing the heart chakra thing, projecting my heart chakra. And she could feel it in London right away, So it's an argument, for the holotropic universe, We are all connected, and time and space doesn't matter, You can project these energies across time and space. Even if it's from a video that has been recorded, the energy still comes through. In a way, it's holographic. It's all connected. So I can do some kind of energy work, but I don't like to do energy work on people. I wake them up to how to access the energy themselves, through the earth, through the heavens, through the crown chakra, the higher dimensions, bring it into the heart, project it, to your inner child. To me, I give feedback, show how important smiling is. And, and then, of course, communicate through subpersonalities, and going into past life if necessary. I take care of a lot of ghosts. I've been sending sometimes whole tribes of Native Americans that got slaughtered, into the next world, from Civil War, people that got killed, those individuals. They were standing in line, and I did not have any peace anymore. So, I closed the door to that, I'm not doing this anymore, unless through a client. If there's a client, I take care of this. And it's amazing how many clients are harassed by ghosts or have been possessed by a ghost, from car accidents, anesthesia, intoxication. Some people have enemy ghosts that hate their guts, follow them from incarnation to incarnations. Some people have lovers that are attached and just follow them from incarnations to incarnations, and they're jealous of their wives, husbands, and create a lot of troubles. So it's very interesting. And I don't chase them out. I get them into heaven. Then once they're in heaven, they're connected to their high self again, and they get their wisdom back, and then they're not a problem anymore. And so, this is waking up for me, who I am, what I can do, and so also the people I meet. I've met people that I killed as a gladiator. I've met people that killed me and cursed me, and I find out about curses, release curses, at least for myself. I met a boss of mine that had me whipped as a slave, and he wasn't a happy person, I have to say, in this lifetime. I have met women that I loved and that loved me, and we got separated through war or death at sea. I lifted curses off my ancestors and tracked down entities that try to hurt and sabotage me through my incarnations. I apologize to people that are around, and so I had a lot of run-ins with the dark side, and that comes with the territory. And let's say I have some razors in my shoe for those kind of things and other surprises. And I also have quite a potent celestial ancestry and have my back. So don't try anything, I would say, for the both of us. So I don't use my energy. I just hold space for people and teach them. I work a lot with higher dimensionals, with gods. They come when I call them. It's probably not so much because of my power, but more like because the ego to contact us humans at this special time of awakening, And my clients are coming from all kinds of paths of life. A few can see their past lives with their eyes open. There was this lady, I was at a concert, and she comes up and said, this person sent me to you, I'm supposed to learn about shamanism. And she was Native American. And so just standing right there, I took her under, I invited a shaman, and there was an old shaman teacher of her, and I hooked her up, showed her how she can interface with this being, and how she can receive teachings and communicate with her. And that took 30 minutes. And then the next day I asked her to do a healing on me with this shaman teachers of her, just to burn it in. And she did, and she could heal something that nobody before could ever heal, just like that. So that was very, very rewarding. And some people just they're very psychic. They just have to get the hang of it, starting in baby steps, talking to the inner child, and soon, many times through the same session they get pretty clear guidance and as mental concepts or as visuals, or they feel things. And some clients, I cannot get full guidance, they cannot communicate. And most of them are just so full of pain and blocks from trauma, or from ghosts, that they need just breath work and intent and other techniques, so to clear this pain, but then they can get in touch with inner guidance. I like when they can get in touch with inner guidance. I don't like to do things for people. And and then there, I've encountered avatars and all kinds of high selves, and gods, Olympic gods, all higher dimensional races. And fortunately, I had all this training in Vedic scriptures, and how to deal with those beings. And also, I'm aware of the deep conspiracy. So I don't get my blind blown anymore. So I work a lot with angels, and so well, this is just about me here. I hope I don't come across as an egomaniac. I'm glad I had this lifetime, though it was not always easy. But on the long run, I have to say, my life has become more and more joyful. Where the bliss, the love, just becomes a permanent state for me. And please understand, if you have been watching up to now, there's a special message here for you. There is a trigger here for you, or maybe you're supposed to work with me, and so just meditate on it, or use your pendulum and find out, yes or no question, can Wolfgang help me in some way, and when you click below the picture, there is a show more button there. It's just the text in YouTube, and when you press that, there's a drop-down menu opens up, and you find all kinds of links, to my website, to my email, through other videos I made, and just take it from there. Follow your bliss and guidance. And again, I love you. Namaste.